SaaS Therapy.
Welcome, everyone, to SaaS Therapy, the show devoted to helping you save your most important business relationships, your customers. My name is Todd Kirk, and I'm joined by my co-host today, Casey Trujillo. Hey, Casey.
Todd, good to be with you. I can't believe we're doing this. I'm stoked. 2024 is going to be amazing. This kicks the year off right. So, Todd, good to be with you, man.
Yeah, so good to be with you. You know, you and I have talked about doing this for a long time. We're very different people. We've worked together for years, and it feels great to finally have a chance to put something like this together. But I'd be curious to get your take, Casey, as to 2024, we're starting out the year with a new show where we're doing this whole SaaS therapy thing. From your perspective, why do you think why are we doing this? Like, what is the right reason for us to get into this right now?
Well, I think the two of us have been in this industry for so long. I think the best analogy that I could give to the situation that's out there in the marketplace today is one of two individuals that are about ready to be married. I have two daughters. They're wonderful. One is married, one is not married. When we're thinking about SaaS therapy, we're thinking about two individuals coming together, a customer and the SaaS vendor. And they're having wonderful talks. They're courting each other. They've gone on amazing dates. All these wonderful things take place. And at some point, they're going to get married or sign a contract, right? The funny part is when we start talking about the honeymoon, where are we actually going? Where are we actually going to live? And I like to say it's as if these two individuals that have been talking about marriage, the groom promises that they're going to go on an amazing honeymoon and they're going to go to Paris. And of course, the bride is thinking, oh, Paris, I love Paris. It's the city of love. It's croissants. It's the Eiffel Tower. It's wonderful museums. I mean, it is the city of love, right? And so that person is all ready for this wonderful honeymoon. The contract gets signed. They're ready to go on their honeymoon. And all of a sudden, they end up in Paris, Idaho. Or Todd, you're a Texan, Paris, Texas, right?
Paris,
and all Texas. Of a sudden, those cities they're great. I'm sure they have wonderful water slides. Maybe they have some great omelets or things like that. It is not Paris, France. And all of a sudden, there's a disruption. There's a disagreement. And who did I actually marry? Who did I actually enter into this contract with? And it seems like that is the conversation that consistently happens. Is the SaaS vendor blames the customer blames the SaaS vendor, and they're in need of therapy. So I'm thinking, and as we've discussed this, what a great show to discuss from both points of view, from the customer plus the SaaS vendor. How do we make this relationship work? So I don't know, Todd, did that work? Did that analogy stick? What's your thoughts on that?
Oh, I think it's really a great point. From my perspective, I've worked in customer education now and in corporate education for about 20 years. And at the start of my career, everything was very much driven around like in-person training. So I cut my teeth supporting, training people on technology, C-level executives at Fortune 500 companies. I'd go in person and train these little small groups and teach them how to use tools that they were deploying in the organization. Then there was this shift where we couldn't just train leadership because leadership had to be bought in for the technology to go out. But we also had to train all the end users. So we put together online events to go out to end users at large corporations. I think over the years, I've probably trained somewhere in the neighborhood of about 500,000 people. And that's been really fun to see. But what's been interesting in the last few years, I've gotten closer and closer to SaaS companies because I've taken on more of a role of a product manager. And so not only have I spent time in employee education, customer education, but now in product management, and realized that everybody's trying to solve the same problem. Because, there's been a really big transformation in technology in the last 10 years. If you really think about it, technology purchasing, software purchasing, it used to feel really transactional because in the past, what would happen is when people would go and they'd purchase software, they'd purchase that software. In their mind, they owned that software forever, right? I bought my license and then that stuck around forever. It might get outdated, but if I wanted to update it, I just purchased the updated version. And so there was that relationship wasn't quite as important, but the SaaS world totally transformed that need. it completely shifted the paradigm. So to your point of that analogy of that marriage relationship, I'm signing up for a long-term agreement to pay you money under the expectation that you're going to maintain my software and make it better. And as a SaaS vendor, you're like, sweet, let's do that. So all the parties want the same thing, but as time goes on, the anticipated value and the expectations that I have as a customer, they can tend to drift away from what the SaaS vendor is actually providing. And it can introduce all kinds of complexity and stress into that relationship that just really makes everybody feel like they're failing on both sides. And so, it's just an interesting place to be. And it's been really fun for me to dig more into that and understand it. I mean, my career has really been around helping other organizations adopt their technology. So it's a little kind of meta, right? It's like, oh, I'm the guy who helps other people. Like I'm the tech guy who helps other people with their tech problems. And so I'm excited to dive in and explore this more with people and help them really try to understand what is it that they need to do differently to get the results they want to have.
Well, I remember you telling me war stories because, again, just to our audience here, the reason why Todd is such a great therapist and a SaaS therapist is he never represented the SaaS vendor and he never represented the customer. Your whole point of view when you would go out to do one of these trainings was to align these two. And I remember you calling me and telling me, hey, the SaaS vendor is like begging me to show this feature, this feature, this feature, and this feature. And the customer saying, just take me through the day in the life of how I'm going to work with the software. Don't get into everything it can do. Just walk me through the day in the life. And again, you're in there trying to ask the vendor the right question. You're trying to ask the executive team, the direct customer the right question so they see the vision of the actual software and getting everyone to leave and saying, wow, we made the right decision. Both parties made the right decision. So I think you're uniquely qualified for that, Todd, because you've had years and years of being that therapist, even though we didn't call it that, right?
So, it's funny you mentioned that. Maybe it's because I've been married a long time too, but have you ever noticed that sometimes as a spouse, I might like clean the kitchen and take out the garbage and like help put the kids to bed. And I feel like I did all these amazing things and I'm doing a wonderful job as a spouse. And then all of a sudden I realize that my partner's like, what are you talking about? You didn't do anything for me. I felt like I did amazing things. And so sometimes there's a disconnect in recognizing what the result is that the customer actually wants to receive. So you're right. I would sit in with SaaS vendors and they'd be like, you got to tell my customer about this. And I'd be like, they don't care about that. You think somehow that they're going to be sold and fall in love with you, but you're not actually listening to them. So yeah, you're right. It really is a therapy problem. But it's funny. Like one of the reasons I was so excited about doing this with you, Casey, is because I come from like a product and a training background. You come from a sales and a business development background. So you see the complete opposite side of the coin and how these relationships get brokered.
Yeah. So on my side, like you mentioned, I'm working with a SaaS vendor and I'm saying, okay, what are the challenges that you're facing? And they're like, hey, we need to onboard our customers quicker. The time to value needs to be cut in half. Once I get someone to purchase, I need that admin to be my champion, someone that's pitchfork sensitive, meaning like they're not going to let this software ever go. I'm trying to build this champion. And then from there, how do I actually get to the users that are actually going to use the software? And I have this wonderful conversation with the SaaS vendor, and they have this beautiful vision. And then on the other end, I've had 30 plus experiences of working with direct customers and saying, okay, you bought this software. If you had this magic wand and can guarantee 100% success, what behavior changes would you want your employees to make with this software? And they go and they tell me all these things, but when they come together, people's motives take over and we become selfish, right? And the other funny part about it, Todd, is it's almost in like a real marriage counseling, right? Or a real therapy session is I go to my friends and but can you believe that this person does this, and this? And then the customer on the other end is talking to all their coworkers and saying, can you believe the SaaS vendor's making me do this, and this? And all of a sudden we feel validated because we're going to people that are trying to accomplish the same thing, but we never have that discussion. So on my side, yeah, I'm bringing that experience from making these relationships with the SaaS vendor and with the direct customers. But also I think something that's unique is, Todd, as me and you have worked with SaaS vendors, something that's unique is it's almost like you have customer education here, you have customer success here, and then you have the sales team over here. And though you all have the same goals, it seems pretty siloed at times. it's hard for these three divisions to actually talk right. CS is blaming the sales rep for not selling the deal right. CS is saying I can't scale. I'm spending all my time training because customer education hasn't given us good education tools to use. And then there's infighting there. So I hope we didn't cause any people to kind of curl up in a ball in the corner right now as we're just talking about why we created the podcast. It is therapy. That is what we're going to solve for today. Is we're going to take those tough questions, we're going to answer them, and we're going to have two very unique perspectives. You, with the experience that you bring in being that mediator for so often in the product side and being out in the field, and then myself and actually working on the contracts and relationships. I think people are going to see two unique views, and they're going to see me and you challenge each other often. And our guests that we bring on, oh, they're in for some serious therapy. So Todd, I'm excited to get after this.
Yeah, me too. When I think about the audience that we anticipate having watching this, I would expect that if you are here listening to Casey and I right now, you are invested in using technology within your organization. And that could be a customer who's purchasing it. That could be a vendor who's selling it. But ultimately, we're trying to heal those relationships. And the trickiest part is that it's not just the relationship, to your point, between the vendor and their customer. It's also the relationship between the people within the organization who are tasked with it. For the SaaS vendor, it's the product team, it's the product marketing team, it's the sales team, it's the client success team, it's the customer education team. And what they're metriced on is all different, right? And so we have our own objectives internally, even within a SaaS organization, that we're all trying to achieve. And it's easy to lose sight of the ultimate goal, which usually is the customer getting the result that they need. So they want to continue to buy and continue to buy and continue to buy. But the customer has the same problem, right? If you work in a large enterprise, and I've worked with many over the years, IT and HR, they don't always get along. What the end user wants and what the executive team wants, that's not always the same thing. So really trying to solve these things can be really challenging. And I'm curious to get your take on this, Casey. You know, we were excited about this idea of therapy, and everything we've talked about from this so far has been through the lens of relationship, right? Relationship therapy and how we heal that. But I also had the thought of well, what about when things are broken and you need to heal them? You know, as someone who had to go through physical therapy, I had to have shoulder surgery a few years ago. And in the beginning, my only task at physical therapy was to be able to move my arm a couple of inches. And I wasn't even supposed to actively do it, right? I had to have something else move my arm for me, which was really interesting to think about. So sometimes there's something that's broken that has to get fixed. And there's steps that you need to take, and usually they're very small, little steps that you need to take to get better. And so I think that's what's another really interesting angle when we think about what we want to accomplish with this podcast is, one, we want to bring all the dirty things out into the air, that like the things that nobody wants to talk about, those difficult conversations. We want to bring that out so other people feel more comfortable to discuss it and think through how they solve those issues together. But on the other side, when there are things that are legitimately broken, like what is the process that we go through to heal those things and get them back into an area where they're functional again?
Todd, I want to double down on that. I remember being at a conference and the speaker that was presenting was powerful. It was wonderful, talking to just to a complete customer success team. And the main point he was making is at an end of a conversation, you need to develop an action plan with your customer. And I remember the customer success people that were in the room, they're whispering to each other and they're like, how are we supposed to do that with everything we're having to do? And so though it was recognized that, hey, I should create an action plan. Well, how do I actually create an action plan that the customer actually cares about? So one of the things that we want to do, going back to your physical therapy analogy, we want to give you actionable things that you can work on every week. If we're doing our job correctly as therapists, whether it be physical, emotional, or relationship therapists, it's giving you homework. And that's what we're planning on doing with 20 years of experience in doing software adoption. And what we mean is we're not representing any software. We're any type of software. But what we're doing is helping customers adopt that software. We have data points. We have stories beyond stories. But the whole goal is to get these two parties to work together. And we're going to give you those actionable steps that we've learned. We're going to have guests on that are going to help teach you that also. But it's not just to talk theory. It's not just to talk the latest trends. It's to give you actionable steps that you walk away with, can apply that week, and then you're going to find some results that you're looking for. So yeah, Todd, I couldn't agree more with that.
Yeah, I think, Casey, it's a great point. The thing I like to say more than anything is that it's really easy in business for the process to become the goal. You need to have process because you need to have some way to move yourself from point A to point B. But it's very easy to lose sight of the ultimate objective and get caught up and mired down into the weeds of, who owns what and who's going to do what in what order and how do we approve this and how do we get that done. And one of the challenges with any business is learning how to refocus in on the most important objective for the business and ensure that you're trying to achieve those goals. That's true for any business, whether you're purchasing software or if you're selling software. And so I think it's going to be really fun for us to try to work together with you who are joining us along this journey to try to really figure out the right way to approach that. So I'm just pumped to interview other people in the field, to take questions and to hear from the audience. And so we hope you engage with us. We hope you come and listen, connect with me and Casey on social media, and let's go on this journey together to really try to heal what's broken in the SaaS world.
Yeah, we believe at the end of this, as you started this podcast, Todd, with saying, hey, we're here to help you with your most important relationships, which is your customer. That is the end goal. It should become better because of what you learned in this podcast. I guarantee you it will be time well spent. Just to give you a teaser as we're here to end and we're wrapping up. Just to give you one teaser, this is one of my favorite data points Todd has given me. And again, Todd's going to give you more data points than you want to know about because he's surveyed so many different organizations, different verticals. But there was one study he did, and it was over 50,000 different end users responded to this. And the question was, it was out to users in all different verticals, but it was the same software application that they're all trying to adopt. And at the end of the education, the question was asked, okay, now that you've been properly trained, how do you feel about making this transition? And one of the answers was, hey, I'm all set. And I think, Todd, you told me that it was something like 60% of the users said, hey, I am good to go.
It's over 60%.
Over 60%.
Close to 65%.
The next answer was, hey, I'm ready to go, but am I supposed to stop using the application that I was trained on using? Because they seem like they're the same application. So should I stop using that one and use this one? The next answer was, is my team going to use this? The next answer was, is my boss going to be using this? The very last answer was, I don't think this new software has the features I need. And it was like 0.02% or something like that.
Yeah, it's hardly anybody.
That wasn't the issue, right? And so those are the data points we're going to give to you along with the stories, along with the actionable items. So again, like Todd said, your homework this week, engage with us. Tell us the questions, the problems, the challenges that you're looking for, and we're going to build off of that. We're going to build this community where we're going to coming out of therapy as triumphant, and that's what I'm most excited about. So Todd, let's get going.
Love it. Thanks, Casey, and thanks everybody.